Nicholas Kirkland's Neurological Warfare and United States Experiments Part 3. In this episode, Nicholas Kirkland discussed the testers and the guinea pigs. Large companies that receive defense contracts, research institutes and scientists funded them, and the U.S. military establishment, that is the executive branch and its power brokers, are inextricably linked in the mind control experiments. They are one single entity, which I shall call the military-industrial complex MIC, the Department of Defense contracts with high-tech mega companies such as Boeing and Lockheed, and with universities like MIT and Stanford and other research facilities to provide the equipment, procure and train the personnel required for monitoring the TIs, select the targets, carry out the experiments, and collect and analyze data. The United States very probably carries out the mind control experiments in tandem with similar experiments by allies, such as Israel, which the US has supplied with cluster bombs, stealth aircraft, and other super high-tech surveillance and other war materiel for many years. US intelligence and the Israeli Mossad and Shin Bet cooperate almost as if they belong to the same country, thus they probably confer on target selections, the training of handlers, and the perfection of mind control techniques. The Mossad provided Bush the pretext for war against Iraq by contriving misinformation about Iraq's purchase of uranium from Niger. To be meaningful, testing must be conducted using control groups, with the victims in each control group having similar characteristics. That is, persons in a particular control group must share the same age category, the same race, the same gender, the same general physical condition, the same or a similar profession, trade, or business, roughly the same educational level, embrace a particular idea or philosophy, and other characteristics. There will be dozens, perhaps hundreds of control groups. To be valid, most of the experiments must be carried out in sequence using the same control groups, or targets, as guinea pigs. That is probably the reason that once targets are hooked, they are kept hooked. I do not know of a single target who became a victim of mind control activities who suddenly became free of those effects. The experiments are ongoing using the same targets. The least objectionable neurological experiments are conducted openly using paid volunteers. The September 8, 2008 issue of the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences featured one of those experiments. In that study, volunteers were shown images and then tested to see how much they remembered. It was found that they not only remembered much about the photos but also remembered minute details. Interestingly, that study was funded by the National Science Foundation, National Institute of Health, a National Defense Science and Engineering Graduate Fellowship, and a National Research Service Award. Notice the participation of the National Defense Agency and the Graduate Fellowship, an award that is granted to scientific brains. The above neurological experiment using volunteers appears harmless. However, most of the neurological experiments are conducted covertly using involuntary American citizens and residents. Subjects of neurological experiments must necessarily be unaware that they are targets, as otherwise many of the items tested would have no validity and, in fact, could not even be tested on voluntary targets. That the United States of America, the so-called bastion of freedom, conducts neurological experiments on its own citizens is an idea abhorrent to most Americans. Yet, the evidence that it happens is too overwhelming to ignore. On our next episode, Nicholas Kirkland tackled why would the United States government experiment on its own people instead of those in foreign countries. Visit www.targetedindividualscanada.wordpress.com for more information.